Year-end is one of the best times to re-engage long-lapsed donors. In fact, I have clients who can successfully reacquire donors as lapsed as 120 months. So we're talking people who haven't given in 10 years.
I'm Rich Frazier.
And I'm Russ Fanoff.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange, a podcast from IPM Advancement.
We believe strong nonprofits can change the world, and our goal with each episode is to bring you insightful conversations with thought leaders from the nonprofit sector.
Let's dive in. Welcome back, listeners, to the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange. I'm your host, Rich Frazier.
And I'm your other host, Russ Fanoff.
Hey, Russ, we've reached a milestone. 50 episodes of the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange. How about that?
Yeah, it's amazing, Rich, and it's been a lot of fun. And hey, here's to 50 more.
A big thanks to all the guests that we've featured over the past four seasons of this podcast. We've learned a lot from the guests that we've had on the program, and how delightful has it been that we've been able to chat with so many super smart people working hard to make the world a better place.
It's been awesome. I want to give a special shout out to our producer, Curtis Schmidt, who has made all these episodes possible. He's been absolutely wonderful. And we also have to thank our listeners. Whether you're tuning in for the first time with this episode, or if you've been with us since the beginning, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing, whatever podcast platform you use. And we're just going to keep doing it. We're going to keep striving to bring you all the topics and experts that make a difference in your fundraising, acquisition, outreach, and stewardship. We want you to be successful.
Absolutely. Hey, Russ, we're going to do something special on this episode to celebrate our milestone of hitting 50 episodes. We know that right now, a lot of nonprofits are focused on year-end fundraising and mapping out next year's strategies. So we've invited our IPM consultant network to call in and share their best tips for 2023 year-end fundraising and how to prepare for 2024.
We're going to hear advice about annual fund. We're going to hear advice about cultivating major donors at year end, how to make the most of that big push for year end so that you can end your year strong. We'll also hear about ways to engage women donors and lots more.
But before we get to our team's tips, Russ and I wanted to share our own. So Russ, what do you have for listeners to help them make the most of their year-end fundraising?
Okay, so I'm probably previewing some things that you'll hear from our consultant network, but there's four things that I'd like people to think about as they go into year-end fundraising. Number one, year-end is absolutely the most important messaging and engagement opportunity that you have all year long. If you can only message once a year to people, even if they're long lapsed, take the opportunity to reach out and get some messaging in front of people before year end. Number two, this year in particular, I think a lot of nonprofits had COVID-era lockdown donors who might have been just single gift donors. And this year may be the last opportunity you have for those short lapse donors to get them back on board. And that leads me into my third point, which is small gifts are okay. The most important thing I think folks can do out there is to re-engage people. Participation matters. And I think it's super, super important, especially for those kind of COVID era donors that may have fallen off the rolls. Re-engage them with a small gift, get them giving again, and then you can always upgrade people later on. And then the last thing I'll say, and you'll hear this again from some of the folks who are going to be making some comments in the minutes ahead, but stewardship and thanking people is priority one. If you're messaging and engaging your donor base, you want to make sure that your stewardship to fundraising ratio is about 2-to-1. So every time you make an ask, make sure you're thanking people twice. So those are my tips, Rich.
Good advice.
How about you? What do you got?
So I'm a process guy, and I'm a warm and fuzzy guy, so I'm going to put a little bit of both in mind. So the first one is using AI in fundraising, and how are we doing our jobs most effectively? And we had this AI episode a couple of episodes ago, and the takeaway there was, if you're not using AI now, you need to be because it's not going away. So let's figure out how do we use it in our fundraising. Let's use it for content creation. We can use it to write emails, social media posts. We can use it to write appeal letters, cases for support. We can use it to give us prompts for creating strategies on strategic plans. I recently had dinner with somebody who has an inside link to a Fortune 1 company, and executives inside that company are not allowed to create first drafts on their own. Their time is too valuable. They are supposed to use AI to create a first draft. It's not cheating, it's doing your job more effectively. The second thing that I've got is building community around a cause. I like to think about connecting to our donors' hearts. I don't really care about your wallet. If I can connect to your heart, I know that you're going to be around the organization for a long, long time. And we're talking about individuals, we're talking about organizations, we're talking about corporations. And the more we can get those folks to rally around the cause, the more we can work together and collaborate to affect change. And how do we do that? Well, we do that through effective storytelling. We do that through being inclusive and making sure that we're representing the communities that we serve. Let's do it by engaging with our volunteers. The last point I've got is making sure that we're taking time for self-care, because we often get so wrapped up in doing the job that we don't have time to A, take care of ourselves, or B, to think about the job and how do we do the job more effectively. So a couple of points on self-care. Mindfulness. Take time for meditation. Take a couple of minutes to just breathe. Let that stress go. Also, take care of your body. Find a couple of minutes to exercise. Finding time to do this during the workday, even if it's just for half an hour, is not only good for the body, but it's also good for our minds because it gives us a time for a strategic thinking break. A long time ago, in another lifetime, I used to swim during my lunch break, and that gave me time to think about things and solve problems on the job. Give yourself time, even if it's just during a walk, during lunch, to think strategically. And then finally, set boundaries. Turn the phone off at night. Don't answer that email. Boss, if you're sending that email at night, be intentional to say, don't answer this email tonight. It can wait till tomorrow morning. And let's normalize disconnecting outside of office hours. So that's what I've got.
All right, good stuff. Well, we mentioned before, we have 5 other folks who are going to give us some input and some feedback and their thoughts on what year-end fundraising could look like for you. And that includes Michelle, Samantha, Melissa, Alan, and Gina. And so let's hear what they have to say.
The crowd goes wild.
Hello, my name is Michelle Rebuer. I am co-founding partner of Synergy Philanthropy and a member of the IPM Advancement Consulting Group. My tip for year-end fundraising is to take stock of who is in your donor database. Did you know 64% of all charitable gifts are made by women? And on Giving Tuesday, 65% of gifts are made by women. So take a look at your donor database. Are you segmenting and appealing to women as they engage, which is differently than men? When creating your year-end appeals and solicitation language, make sure you're including girls and women in your materials. Are they pictured? Are they positioned in a way that invites the attention of new female donors? Gather their testimonies, highlight their testimonies of existing female donors and why they give. Put them on your website, in your appeals, on your Giving Tuesday solicitations. Feature their stories as much as you feature all your other donor types. Women are all in. They give from their heart, their head, and their hands. They want to touch, feel, and understand the impact of their contributions to your organization. So check it out. Make sure you're making your appeals to women the way they want to be cultivated. You will find greater success and sustainable giving by focusing on women. This is Michelle Rebuer from Synergy Philanthropy and IPM Advancement Consulting, wishing you, yours, a very happy, healthy, prosperous, and joyful holiday season.
My name is Samantha Timlick. I'm the VP of Client Services at IPM Advancement. And my top tip for year-end fundraising in 2023 is to leverage your annual fund. both to finish out the year on a strong note and to set yourself up for success in 2024. So if you don't already have your year-end outreach for 2023 underway, get going right now. There's probably still time to get a direct mail package into people's hands. So I would start there if possible. If your budgets are tight, focus on your more recent donors. But if you can, this is the perfect time to go deeper into your file. Year end is one of the best times to re-engage long lapse donors. In fact, I have clients who can successfully reacquire donors as lapsed as 120 months. So we're talking people who haven't given in 10 years. And we're able to bring them back onto the file at an acceptable net cost per new name based on the organization's donor lifetime value. Now, I know it can be tempting to rely solely on email and digital, but you know me, I believe that direct mail outreach is absolutely necessary. So think about your own mailbox. I know very clearly, I can tell that the volume of mail that I receive has continued to decline. Well, at the same time, I can't even begin to keep up with the number of emails and social media ads and posts that I am bombarded with. So when something shows up in my mailbox that seems worthwhile, it's much more likely to get my attention. So use that to your advantage, particularly as you're closing out the year. And whenever possible, couple your year-end fundraising with stewardship. Many of our clients see success with a double drop at year-end. So look to drop an appeal in late November, early December. I know the timelines are getting tight, but do what you can. And then later in December, send out a stewardship mailing, like a newsletter or an annual report, or even just a holiday card, sort of wrapping things up. That 1-2 punch generates a stronger return on investment than either effort as a standalone. We have A/B tested this with different clients in different years. And I think it's a combination of having 2 touch points, so simply giving folks more opportunities to give. But I also think it's about closing the loop for donors because you're articulating your need through the appeal, and then you're articulating the impact the donor can have through the newsletter. You're showing, not just telling them about their impact. And as a quick side note, we have tested a combination here as well, where we basically sent an appeal and a stewardship in the same envelope. It did work better than one or the other as a standalone, but it didn't work better than both. So whenever possible, I like to see that 1-2 touch at year end. And then once you're squared away for 2023, it's time to immediately turn your attention to 2024. You want to make sure that you are starting the next year with a roadmap and a wealth append. There are a lot of companies that do wealth appends. I suggest that you look for one that provides actionable insights versus just shooting a bunch of data out at you. Or if they don't offer that, make sure that you're ready to take the results and create your own insights or work with a consultant who can help you do that. So I recommend that clients take the results of a wealth append and then literally rank their donors. Put them in a list, start with one at the top, and work your way down. Then you can use those numbers to create functional segments. So this can be things like, here is our active major donor portfolio. Here are our major donor prospects. Here are our mid-level donors that we want to work to bring up over the next year. Here are the annual fund people that are just going to get our standard touch points. Whatever they are, having that actionable data going into the new year is really critical. So close out this year on a strong note, prepare yourself for next year, and you'll be all set. That's what I've got for you today. Thank you for tuning in and spending some time with us. And thank you to all of our longtime listeners. Good luck in your year-end fundraising, everyone.
Hi, I'm Alan Knobloch. I'm a founding partner of Synergy Philanthropy Consulting and also involved with IPM Advancement. And my advice for the end of 2023 fundraising year is to make sure that you keep an eye on your best donors, your major donors, your top donors. Those are the ones that you can't afford to lose if, for whatever reason, they don't renew their gift or even upgrade their gift from prior years. So a lot of people make their gifts at the end of the year, and a lot of their best donors make their gifts at the end of the year. So now's a really good time to reach out to them just to say hello and share impact stories with them and make sure that they're on board, because the smaller donors have been really struggling this year. The annual programs are struggling. We all know that our organizations are under-resourced and everyone's trying to do a whole bunch of things all at the same time. And the squeaky wheel tends to get the attention, the year-end annual appeal, and all the things that we have to do to get through the end of the year. So I think best practices are to go into your database if you haven't already and treat it like it's a portfolio, and your best donors, go in there and make sure, have they renewed for 2023? And if not, reach out to them and share with them impact and share with them testimonials, and make sure that you know that they're on board for a year-end gift in 2023. We have this conversation with all of our clients. I go into their databases and help them to identify, their portfolios where they haven't had them before. And then you can see, November and December, all these $1,000, $5,000 larger contributions, where a lot of times they come in on their own, but you don't know that for sure. So please don't let other things bump them down in the list of priorities, thinking, oh, they're there, they've always been there, they'll come in again. This is a great opportunity to extend that relationship, especially considering there's other organizations they're giving to. And if they hear from you and they have any challenges, your organization is the one that stays at the top of the list. We have lots of clients at Synergy Philanthropy, and all of them, we deal with this situation, and we talk to them and we help them identify their best donors out of their database, and we help them script how to reach out to those people if they haven't already. And we found that many of them really appreciate that prompt and that kind of accountability call to make sure that they reach out to those folks who make up the biggest portion of the income that they get throughout the year. Thank you all for your time and attention and for listening to this podcast. And I wish you all the best success for the end of 2023, so your organization starts 2024 on super strong footing.
Hi, this is Curtis Schmidt, producer of the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange. If you're a nonprofit professional who has questions about your program, or maybe you feel like you've taken your advocacy, fundraising, or membership effort as far as you can and you need some fresh ideas, then we have a special offer for you today. NPFX podcast listeners can get a free 30-minute consultation with IPM Advancement, no strings attached, when you go to ipmadvancement.com/free. Just enter a few details and an IPM team member will contact you to follow up. It's that easy. That website again is ipmadvancement.com/free. Thanks for listening, and we hope to talk to you soon. Now let's return to the episode.
Hello, my name is Melissa Cowley-Wolf. I am the founder of MCW Projects, an advising firm specializing in next-era philanthropic strategy and organizational and executive wellness for leaders and collectives who want to make an impact. And I am a member of IPM Advancement's consulting network. So here we are at a pretty crucial moment in the trajectory of American philanthropy. The charitable giving data that we have from last year shows inflation-related drops in giving and a decrease in individual giving. And we're seeing several studies that show that trust in nonprofits is down. Against this backdrop, we are witnessing chaos and crises around the globe, heightened by the constant flow of news, of social media, and more. So we are inundated with needs around the globe. We're moving from crisis to crisis, and philanthropy has been lurching as a result. So it is more important than ever to tell the stories of the change that you make and the impact that you drive in order to make the case for your continued relevance and sustainability. So how do we successfully navigate all of these trends we're seeing in philanthropy to create impactful and successful fundraising campaigns, especially at this crucial moment at year end? So while things are indeed wildly chaotic around the globe, and this trends we are seeing can cause a lot of alarm, we need to remember that now is not the time to panic. It is also not the time to fall into a scarcity mentality or a fear mentality. So fear of donors, fear of soliciting, fear of hearing no, fear of trying something new, fear of soliciting for your cause when there are so many causes right now. But don't panic. Be grounded, present, balanced, and be patient. From a grounded, place, form a philanthropic strategy. Strategize from that active place, not a reactive one. Because when we panic, we tend to hunch over our computers all day. We write and rewrite our year-end appeals. We stare at our Excel sheets. We examine our lists of lie bunts and side bunts. So notice if you are doing that. I've been reading about a condition called screen apnea. A study has concluded that 80% of us hold our breath or alter our breathing while we're checking email, while we're looking at our screens, while we're getting text messages. That just causes us to panic more. So set yourself up for success this year end by employing breathing techniques to breathe deeply, to create a sense of calm. Take the space for strategic thinking. So walk away from your desk. Set an alarm to practice some slow, deep breathing throughout your day. Put on some music that makes you happy and listen to a few songs while you make that afternoon cup of tea. Because once you can work from a grounded place, you can properly evaluate and implement your strategy. Now, for that strategy, remember that planning is crucial. So make sure that you're investing in strategic planning throughout the year, and then develop your fundraising plan out of that strategic plan. Throughout the year, reflect on some questions and integrate that information into your solicitation strategies. Questions such as, what is the story you have been telling? How do you communicate your values? How do you as an organization define impact? And what makes you relevant? Also, never stop cultivating. And not just in the typical sense. Cultivating also means radically listening to what donors and audiences are telling you. Then you can activate that feedback into your year-end case statements and strategies. So acutely listen to your audiences. Listen to what they're telling you about how to best serve them and drive impact. And let those stories influence the case statements. Consider segmentation based on this feedback. Not everyone will read a letter, and not everyone will read an email. So if you create that habit of listening throughout the year, you can most appropriately and successfully segment and solicit at your year end. And finally, once you've done that, to tell the story, turn over that microphone for your year-end storytelling to your audiences and constituencies. Let those benefiting from your services tell the story. And then you are telling stories more honestly, because who is telling the story is just as important as what the story is. Your audiences and your ambassadors and your advocates can best describe how the organization makes an impact in the community. So empower them and provide them with tools to share their narratives. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this is helpful. And all of us at IPM wish you a successful and grounded end of year.
My name is Gina Parzial. I'm a certified fundraising executive, and I work with the IPM Consulting Network. I always encourage my clients to really focus on the successes of the year. Everywhere at this time of year, you see the top 10 this of 2023, and here's the people to remember and the most memorable things. This is a great time of year to share that with your donors. I always jokingly say, thank twice, ask once. And this is kind of a way of doing that. To phrase the year-end campaign is, because of you, we were able to do all of these things last year. And quite frankly, even if they didn't specifically give last year, it's still part of a we. We were able to accomplish these things. Here's what we did together. And this is such an important time of year to celebrate all of your successes. You can really kind of brag, your top 10 successes or highlights from the year, showing some fun photos and videos, really making it personal that their gift is what helped you accomplish these things. It's a way of asking that isn't as direct. It doesn't feel like an ask. People like to look at pictures, they like to look at fun things, and they like to feel a part of something. And so when you really include them in that, it's kind of a soft ask that follows your actual ask. And I think that that is so important always, but especially this time of year. Thank you for listening to my tips. If you have any questions, please give me or anyone at IPM a call.
So, Russ, one of the things that I noticed in here was Gina's comment about think twice, ask once, kind of directly tied back to what you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I mean, that's it's a good rule of thumb to keep in mind, because I think a lot of organizations flip it, right? They ask twice, they thank maybe once a year, and it just doesn't work for people anymore. You've got a lot of competition out there. You've got a lot of messaging competition vying for people's attention. And I think there's an opportunity to just report back to people, thank them, remind them of the connection between donors and impact.
Yeah. And I think almost everybody talked about the importance of, they said it in different ways, but really the importance of storytelling, telling our story, telling the impact, and telling why it is that your organization is important, why your support is important to this organization.
Absolutely. And I think Samantha made a really good point of using direct mail. That is a great canvas for you to make your case to people, to remind them of your impact. And, take that opportunity to go beyond just the digital realm. Digital is cheap. It's easy. It's great to deploy quickly. But mail really stands out. And we hear it time and time again that younger donors actually like getting mail. We're hearing that more and more. So, reach out to folks, give them something that they can hold in their hand and they can see is from you and is a representation of that relationship with your organization.
One of the things that stood out for me were Melissa's comments regarding global crises. Don't panic. Your organization is still very important. Make sure that message gets out there to your donors. And also the importance of taking care of yourself, stepping away from everything for a moment, taking a breath and taking care of your mental health and your physical health.
Yeah. And Melissa also recognizes that there's a lot of folks out there who are just really bombarded with so much information that they're checking out, right? And I think that speaks to the importance of multi-channel messaging. Make sure you're not just going to people in one form of communications. Get to people in a lot of different ways, vary that messaging, and above all, make it valuable to people, right? Don't just do it for yourself or your organization. Don't wave the flag of, hey, we're so great, look at what we did. Involve people, involve them in your storytelling, make people really feel that connection on a very visceral level to your organization. And I think that kind of helps break through that feeling of there's just too much going on,
Yeah. And Michelle Rebiar, we've had her on the show before talking about women and philanthropy, and they are a very important market.
Absolutely. She mentioned that on Giving Tuesday, about 2/3 of gifts are made by women. We've known for a long, long time that women in a kind of traditional household, women tend to drive philanthropic decisions. So obviously be sensitive to that. If you're messaging to your audience, make sure you have a good breakdown of who your audience is. You really want to make sure that you're messaging in a way that is very authentic, but at the same time, keep in mind who you're talking to.
What else?
One of the things that Alan did that I thought was good was make that connection between annual giving and major donors. He spoke about annual fund programs kind of struggling right now. We do see that. Again, going back to my comment about participation, let's just keep people engaged, right? It's an opportunity for you to really grow your base with small gifts. Just keep people engaged meaningfully. Don't look at gifts as being a once a year thing anymore. That's an important thing to keep in mind. People are giving multiple times a year. Maybe those gifts are going to be smaller, but make major donors that priority focus at year end. Don't worry about your average gift in the general annual fund. Let those major donors and those higher end givers bring up your average overall.
Russ, you know what? This has been great. I'm so glad we got to pull in our consultant network on these tips and great advice that we've heard from them. We could go on and on, But you know what? I think it's time to let everybody just get to work with their year-end appeals.
Yeah, absolutely. Get out there and do it. Have a great year end. Work your tail off. Engage people. Let them know that you're thinking about them and that they make a difference in your organization and that their impact really matters. So thank you to all the IPM team members who called in with their year-end tips. And if you'd like to contact any of us, you can do so at IPMadvancement.com, and we'll also include their LinkedIn profiles in the show notes.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us for this special season finale.
For everybody out there, we have lots of great stuff planned for next year. Great topics, great guests. If you ever want to let us know what you want to hear and make some suggestions for the show, please reach out to us. And we look forward to connecting with you again this January.
Thank you to our producer, Curtis Schmidt, to my co-host and friend, Russ Faniff, never going to give you up.
Wow.
And to you, our listeners, thanks again. We'll see you next time on the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange.
Bye-bye, everybody.
That concludes this episode of the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange. Thanks to our panel for sharing their insights and expertise. If you'd like to learn more about our panel members or any of the organizations or resources featured in this episode, we will include links in the show notes. If you like this podcast, we would love your help spreading the word. First, please subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app so you always know when a new episode is released. Second, forward the episodes you like to friends and colleagues or share them on social media. Word of mouth is one of the best ways you can help us reach more nonprofit professionals like yourself. And if you use Apple Podcasts or Audible, please leave us a review. Positive reviews are how many listeners decide whether or not to try out a new podcast. We appreciate your help. For suggestions on topics, guests, or nonprofit organizations you'd like to hear on the podcast, send an email with the subject heading NPFX suggestion to contact@IPMadvancement.com. For back episodes and more resources like white papers, infographics, and blog articles, please visit the free IPM Advancement Nonprofit Resource Library at IPMadvancement.com/resources. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.